On the air with us, Brian POSEHN.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming
Returning
on the show.
guest.
I want to mention, Brian, you're releasing your first full-length heavy metal album, Grandpa Metal, on Megaforce Records on a very romantic day, Valentine's Day. The perfect Valentine's Day gift for your loved one would be the new Brian POSEHN album, Grandpa Metal.
If you got a nerdy, heavy metal loving husband or wife, yeah, perfect. The perfect purchase.
Now, this album has been many years.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. This album has been many years in the making. You were actually on our show about 3.5 years ago, and you were saying how you had a few songs written at the time. So how long total did it take to put this together?
We're saying 6 years. I think that's about right. Like, so we talked about it, and then we I think I signed with Megaforce about 6 years and started the project. And I'm kind of embarrassed that it took that long, but it's really because of Scott and I having crazy schedules, and then we just let it. And we had a really patient producer, Jay Rustin, who let us take our time with it. And then we got to a certain point where we're like, we should wrap this up. and then I took about a year to finish it, where I got help from other people to because we needed more songs. We realized we were like a couple of songs short of a record. And so me and Joe Troman wrote the last couple of songs.
What were the last songs that you wrote? Do you remember?
We finished up the lyrics for Grandpa Metal. I had been kind of stuck on those. I had the concept, and the song had been written. Scott had written the music, and we'd done a demo of the song, but didn't have the lyrics. And then I got help with that. And then once we did that, we did Monster Mosh and Big Fat Rock together. And that was the idea of just like, let's do, the dumbest. The way I said to Joe was, let's write a song about my wiener that even Steel Panther would go, no, that's too dumb. That was the idea. Let's outdumb Steel Panther. And those guys are friends. I love those guys. But it was just like, let's make the dumbest, because I grew up with all these songs where, that were innuendo driven, or, double entendre or single entendre, where it's quite obvious the song that Gene Simmons is writing is about his wiener, and we all know it. And so it was just the idea of let's do a song about my wiener where it's not subtle at all. It's the opposite of subtle.
Right. You there's really a line, and by rock I mean my cock, right? Like you're not even there's no entendre. It's zero entendre.
I think I even say in the one of the lyrics is that this is an innuendo. Like I'm talking about my cock. Yeah.
And honestly, one thing that stands out, like I went into this expecting a comedy album, but what shines so bright for me is what a great riff writer Scott Ian is, because there are legitimately some amazing riffs on this record. Like, were you in the studio listening to this and be like, holy shit, like, this is fucking Scott Ian, and he's writing all these great riffs, and now I have to like step up, and I have to like actually, deliver here. Was there pressure hearing these riffs?
Oh, there is. Yeah, there is. But I also, I mean, I'd written other songs with him, so I knew,
Right.
Metal by Numbers and More Metal Than You are, I think people like them because they are so, they're written by him. Like I wrote some lyrics and I yelled Cookie Monster vocals into a microphone, but they're decent songs because he's amazing and always has been. And I mean, I grew up loving Anthrax, but I also loved SOD. So this whole thing has just been basically like me forming my version of SOD with the guy from SOD. Like every time he and I, sit down and write a song together, that's always been my thing of like, I'm with this guy. So now it's up to me to fuck it up, really. You know, like he's got the metal down. It's not like I'm starting a band with a buddy of mine, you know, like
right, exactly.
with Scott Ian.
Not every day that could happen. And I love, so you have a lot of guest appearances here. You called some friends, I'm assuming, and it really makes the whole thing seem very theatrical. Like one of the songs is called 1/4 Viking, 3/4 Pussy. And I assume that has Johan Hegg on it, right? Because he's in the credits.
Yes.
And so now, did you come up with the song concept first, or was it like, man, I gotta collaborate with Johan? How do I get him on a song? And then you got the joke that way. Which came first?
Well, with that one, I wrote the song first, and then I said to Jay Rustin, my producer, "Do you think we could get him?" And he's like, "Jay produced an album for Amon Amarth." He's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Let me call him." So
I see, and he's an LA guy.
The favors all came easily. The favors all came easily of me just going, "Hey, you know, let me call whoever." But I always wanted it to be an organic fit, like. The only one where it's a little off, but I love it, is, you know, asking Alex Skolnick to do a solo on that song, but he killed it. But everybody else, they kind of fit the song. You know what I mean? Like, he'd never done, you know, he's from Testament, but he'd never done like Viking type stuff. But for to have to write a Slayer song or a, you know, that Satan song, and then to get Gary Holt to do the solo, that was kind of calculated. I mean, a lot of it was me just going, yeah, this would be perfect. If I get him to do this, this will fit really well, you know?
It's funny, I have in my notes that the solo on 1/4 Viking, 3/4 Pussy is like insane, and I was like blown away by it. I was like, this holds up to any solo in, like, you know, serious, quote unquote serious.
No, I know, and it's Skolnick killing it. Everybody I asked to do it, they just completely delivered. And like, I was playing it for people, and they're like, "Man, this is kind of the guitar record of the year." And it's like, yeah, and I didn't even think about it, but when you're asking that many shredders to be on this record, of course, you know, when you get Phil Demmel and you got Alex Skolnick and you've got Gary Holt and Brendan Small, and you know, it stacks up, and you get Bumblefoot and Phil Demmel and everybody on there.
Yeah, it almost caught me. It like caught me off guard for a second. I'm like, well, what do you expect? These are all like pros. These aren't, you know, it isn't your buddy, like you were saying. These are big time folks.
There's a couple of cover songs on the album. How did you decide which songs to do covers of? Well,
I've done Take On Me at karaoke before. So that's kind of how I decide on my, you know, I did a cover of The Gambler before, and that is also something I've done at karaoke, you know, where I'll get a couple of whiskeys in me and I'll get up and I'll just scream a song. And that's how I had done that. So I knew that would be funny. And then I also, the big part of why I picked those songs is I was just like, I've always thought that any song is better if it's done heavy metal style. Like, if you take any song and make it better just by putting more guitars and you know, producing it the way we like our music. And that was just the basic idea of like, let's take two goofy pop tunes that people know, but do kind of the best versions of them. And it took a little bit of convincing. Like with Chuck Billy, you know, I asked him to be on it, and he's like, "What am I doing? Take On Me? Really? That song?" And I sent it to him, and he's like, "No." I sent it to him, and he goes, "No, I know the song, but how do you want me to sing it?" I'm like, "Dude, I want Chuck Billy. You know, I want you to you know, Chuck Billy it up. That's all what I always wanted." And then to get him and Zetro, two of my favorite, you know, thrash vocalists, on the same track, and then with Jill Janice of Huntress that she killed it.
I think everyone really delivers on the album, and it's and I love some of the messages of the songs, like the title track itself, just mocking. Well, the joke is on Scott Ian, but I'm assuming you're joking about a sort of metalhead that just refuses to listen to new music.
Oh yeah, myself included. Well, I'm actually pretty open-minded, but. Mm-hmm. No, it's making fun of every crusty old metalhead that that is like, nah, there hasn't been anything good since 1992. It's that guy.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then I love that there's two versions of New Music Sucks, because there's just so many people you get to shit on. And one of the people that you call out was Post Malone. I was curious what your thoughts are on seeing that now Ozzy is on a Post Malone track. How did you feel about that? Understood.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Here's the thing. I mean, I love that Post Malone is now at least, because I hate when pop people are like, I like heavy metal. Like, look at this heavy metal T-shirt I bought online, and then they were, like when Katy Perry's wearing, or whatever dildo pop star. I'm sorry.
No, feel free.
That's always been a pet peeve of mine. Mm-hmm. Like I remember hearing like a couple of years back where people were like, Lady Gaga likes metal, and I'm like, we'll prove it. And then she did the thing with Metallica, and I was like, oh well, all right.
I'll allow it.
But at least. The love is there. The love is real. I can't really shit on somebody for liking metal, but when you don't really, that's when it pisses me off. It's when a Kardashian is wearing a torn up Megadeth shirt, I lose my mind. And when I go to Nordstrom's and I see, Ride the Lightning, but in a jersey in the women's section for $100, the poser bell goes off in my head. But
isn't
people if Post Malone legitimately likes heavy metal, then that's cool.
Well, he used to be in metal bands?
He used to be in like an Asking Alexandria cover band or whatever. But
what, really? Is that what it was?
Yeah. He liked like scene core.
Oh my god.
We have
what?
He was into like scene bands, Post Malone, because he's only like 21. He's a young guy, 24, something like that.
Right.
He's 47 years old.
No,
he's a kid.
Yeah. So he was into like the hardcore, like the metalcore stuff of the mid-aughts. We do have a number here.
Oh, so like Atreyu and yeah.
Yeah. He was in an Asking Alexandria cover band. There's like footage of him from like the MySpace days. And he had the hair.
All right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So our number is 213-WIDE-NUT, 213-943-3688. If you want to talk to Brian, we have 567. Do you have a question for Brian POSEHN? 567.
Hey,
you're on.
Am I on? Can you guys hear me?
Yes. You are on 567.
Awesome. It's Baby Daniel. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. We're on the air with Brian. Do you have a question for Brian?
Yeah. Firstly, Brian, thanks for the great music. I remember hearing Metal by Numbers the first time when I was like a 13-year-old. It was just awesome because someone finally combined comedy and metal, and I thought I was the only one that liked metal that also had a sense of humor, so thank you for doing that.
Nice.
My question is, when you worked with the musicians that you collaborated with, I'm imagining, right, you're a fan of these guys. You knew of them before you worked with them. Did you find out that any of them were also fans of yours?
Oh, everybody. So it's everybody on the record. They're all friends, and I've known them for a while. So they're all people that like I know that they also like the dumb shit I do. Yeah, everybody that's on there, and like from Chuck to the only one that was Johan, we found out knew who I was through the producer, but everybody else was, just me calling in favors of, and then people going, hey, I'll, next time you're recording a record, let me know, I'll do it. And then I went, okay, I'll hold you to it. Like that was literally what Chuck had said. And I called him like a year later and said, okay, I'm doing this thing. I want you on it.
And you also had Weird Al make a cameo, which must have been a big deal for you. And how much of an inspiration was his stuff for this album?
Well, he's never done metal, but I mean, funny music, yes.
Right.
He's a huge inspiration, and his parodies are sillier. For my parodies, I kept it straight and I didn't change the lyrics at all, or not parodies. I didn't do any parodies, but I did covers. But it's a different thing, but it also made sense. There was a little bit of like, if I put him on, it's almost like in the Rundown where Schwarzenegger hands off to The Rock. Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
It's a passing of the torch.
It's such a dumb reference. Yeah, there's a little bit of like, hey, if I get Weird Al on my record, that's like Schwarzenegger being in The Rundown.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
When we last talked in 2016, one thing you mentioned was we were talking about weed, and you were saying you had no idea how you would handle the drug talk with your 7-year-old kid. We were curious if since then you've either figured it out or had the conversation, or what's the is there any update there?
Nah, he's 10 now, and
Still too
luckily haven't yet, but
it's coming up.
Eventually, yeah, it's coming.
And now with I feel like weed in general in the last 3 years has evolved into so many different forms now with these vape pens and edibles and living on the West Coast where it's all legal. Like, are you still doing it the analog way, the traditional flower?
I am, yeah, I am, but those pens are great for traveling. Put it that way. Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I mean, it's kind of hard not to smoke at this point. Like I had quit, but then now it's so accessible. Like, how do you say no to it? You can get a dude to deliver it at the same time as your food. It's pretty amazing.
Same guy sometimes.
Yeah,
you can time it correctly. Yeah, sometimes it is the same gentleman.
Uber Eats needs to start getting in on the action.
Uber edibles.
Yeah. I'm sure they're already beta testing.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with us. Oh, are you now that the album is over, you're about to go on tour? Are you listening? Do you have your playlists ready? Are you listening to any new stuff or any classics? Like what's been in your ears lately?
Well, since last week, I've only listened to Rush.
Right.
Since last Friday, but
yeah.
Other than that, the morning process. There's some. The latest stuff I like how I'm not too hip. I wish some people would turn me on to some newer stuff. Like the most recent stuff I like are Power Trip and Havoc, and both those bands have been around at least 5 years now. So, but there's nobody on my radar that's brand new. But I love what old bands are doing. I love the latest Death Angel. I'm so stoked that they're up for a Grammy, even though they don't mean anything. But it's very cool to see friends of yours, even in a band that I've liked since I was a teenager, recognized finally. But yeah, and then it's mostly the old stuff. I listen to a lot of Maiden, a lot of Metallica, a lot of everything.
Have you ever listened to Crotch Duster?
No.
I know them only by name. They're not something I'm super familiar with.
I think you might like them. we got a little preview of Grandpa Metal, and when I was listening to it, I was just like, first of all, it's such a fun album, and I don't know, it's not similar to Crotch Duster, but it's like the same like fun feeling. So I thought
same genre, different vibes. It's
approach.
producer
Yeah, I'll
Jason.
check them out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They've been around a while, and
Yeah.
I don't know why I've never checked them out, but I just the name, maybe it was the silly name, and you would think because I'm a comic it would attract me, but sometimes names like that throw me off, where you're like, well, they're probably not serious, you know what I mean?
Well, the music is very
yeah.
serious, much like with your album. It's because it's essentially
Right, but it's funny.
yeah. Sorry.
You know, like every metalhead, we have our opinions before we hear stuff, and
course.
that's you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
That's what makes us
that's kind of
metalheads.
how I looked at that.
well,
Check
cool.
it out.
Well, check it out. Yeah. Thank you so much,
The
Brian.
inspiration for the record came from like SOD and like Scatterbrain. Scatterbrain. I don't know if you guys
yeah.
remember, but that was a
course.
big thing. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it was also just like very cool to hear Jill Janis on the album, and for you know, just like fans to have something new out from her is pretty cool.
That's so heartbreaking, but yeah, that was part of the thing that I was like, oh, at least there's 2 new songs for people to hear, and I can't wait for people to hear the Goblin Love song. I don't know if you heard that one yet, but
Yeah.
Yes.
she and I, yeah, I mean, she's so funny on it, and she was nervous about that. She was like, you wrote all these funny things. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And I was like, no, you can. You can, I said, I just want you to do your crazy black metal goblin voice. You know, she already did that kind of thing. I was just like, do that and just don't worry about it. You're going to kill it. And she did. I'm so proud of that song, and it's so funny, and she's so great. And then when she sings her balls off. Everybody knows what an amazing singer she was.
Yep. And you spoke very highly of her last time we had you on. You were saying how she was so good at doing that goblin voice that you kind of had to go back and like upgrade your vocals.
It's true. I did. I re-recorded. I re-recorded my track after I heard her track. I was just like, well, that won't work. You know, you can't half-ass it with her in the
All right. Well, Brian, thank you so much. The album is Grandpa Metal. It is out on Valentine's Day, February 14th. The perfect gift for a loved one, I think.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a great one, Brian.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks again.